Hey, everybody, there's new evidence about Alex Cox's relationship with his younger sister, Lori Daybell, and it's pretty disturbing. I mean, was there sexual misconduct leading back to their childhood? And who was controlling who? And don't forget, this new search warrant revealed a fourth person who handled the gun that killed Rust cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Why is everybody pointing fingers about the pointed gun? And let's not forget Summerwell's case and stick around for Aidan Fucci's first court appearance since he complained that demons were taking his soul. Hey, thanks for joining Profiling Evil for this quick recap of crime during the week. I'm going to pick a couple of my favorite stories to chat about, and I hope you'll take a moment. Hit that like and subscribe button while I do this. Please ring the bell so that you get all of our notifications on videos like this one. But let's get started with the Daybell case. I mean, that's right. Lori, Noreen, Cox, Yanes, Langiola, Ryan, B.O.L.O, Daybell remains quiet in an Idaho mental health facility while her husband Chad gets one step closer to a murder trial in Boise, Idaho. I mean, with all this going on, Alex Cox suddenly reared his head in an interview his wife, ex-wife, only known to us as Debbie, gave Chandler police. In the recorded phone call, Cox's ex-wife told police some frightening news about this confusing one-year-long marriage they had. It included his admission of wanting to murder Joe Ryan, and it frightened Debbie to the point that she never talked to him again. You know, I've often wondered what control Lori Daybell must have had on her older brother if these allegations that he became her hitman are true. Evidence has clearly shown that he violently assaulted her third husband, Joe Ryan, put him in jail. There's no question of that. There's also no question that he shot and killed her fourth husband at point blank range. And there's no question that his phone was forensically tied and identified to the same location that J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan's remains were recovered. Remember, Chad Daybell's pet cemetery. Well, I'm starting to wonder who controlled who, or if all the allegations are true, was this simply three crazy people who came together in a horrible plot that provided them all with the things they fantasized about? You know, Alex is 5 years older than Lori. As more information's unfolding about his sexual deviancy, I'm looking backwards for answers. I mean, his international travels to fulfill his sexual fantasies are one thing, but now his ex-wife is sharing that he was obsessed with sex and that he extended that into criminal behavior, assaulting a 15-year-old in their neighborhood. Now, his ex-wife would go on to say that she left him because there was just too much sexual promiscuity in their relationship. Then she dropped this bombshell. She said the family dynamics were even more troubling. She said there was a lot of inappropriate sexual touching between Lori and Alex, and that he would openly tell his ex-wife that Lori was hot, and he sexualized her a lot. I mean, who does this kind of thing? According to Debbie, Cox would touch Lori's private areas and they would simulate sex acts in front of her and the rest of the family. I mean, let's just listen in for just a second here.
Whirlwind romance, got married, then I got to know the family, and there were so many crazy dynamics in that family and I've gone back since all of this came out and read my journals from that period of time. And there was just a lot of crazy dynamics in that family back then. There was a lot of inappropriate sexual touching and things going on in the family, particularly between him and his sister.
So between Alex and Lori?
And Lori.
Okay. You kind of got me at a loss on this one. What do you consider inappropriate sexual touching?
Like, they were simulating sex acts, and which is not normal to me for a brother and a sister. For example, he would pick her up and she'd wrap her legs around his waist, and he would kind of bounce her up and down on himself
Okay.
in front of me, and they would moan and simulate sex acts. And I have brothers, and I would never act like that with one of my brothers.
Well, you can catch that full interview by clicking on the link below. But think about this: as Lori Daybell's completing her mental health competency evaluations, she's going to eventually return to the courtroom. If so, will all of this information come out? I mean, it's certainly going to come out by the prosecution, but will the defense try to paint a picture that Lori was a victim of assault and destructive control by Alex? Again, her 5-year older brother. Now, how will this information also affect Chad Daybell? His family's pointing to Lori as the source of all his problems. So how far is this blame game going to go? I'm going to be really interested in your thoughts regarding this development. I mean, do you think Alex Cox may have abused his younger sister in some way, creating a bond that became deadly? Or is it possible that Lori enticed Alex and then leveraged that control to turn him into her personal hitman? You can catch again the entire interview between Debbie and the Chandler police by clicking on the link before. And don't forget to check out our story map on the Daybells. You can find it at profilingevil.com under story maps. Now, let's talk a little more about the shooting death of Helena Hutchins on the Rust film set. More information is rolling out on the Rust film shooting, and the initial silence is starting to turn to finger pointing. We've now learned that 4 different people handled the weapon that was fired, killing cinematographer Hutchins. 4 people who have admitted they handled that weapon. I mean, why didn't anyone clear that gun? The attorneys representing the armorers are saying that she had no idea there were live rounds, including the one that killed Hutchins. The release said that safety is the armorer's #1 priority on the set. She continued by saying, ultimately, this set would have never been compromised if live ammo were not introduced. Holy cow, what an understatement. But safety on the set was compromised, and it resulted in a disaster. And now a 4th person is being questioned in the shooting, the property master. In all, the weapon that killed Hutchins was handled by the armorer, the property master, the assistant director, and finally Alec Baldwin, who pulled the trigger. That's 4 different people who acknowledged that ammunition was not supposed to be on the filming set. That's 4 different people who had an opportunity to render the weapon empty. No finger pointing or argument's going to change that. And let's be clear, the weapon probably didn't discharge on its own. The mechanics of that kind of weapon require that the shooter manually operate it. Refer to this little video right here by 3D Gunner. This means that Baldwin had to physically cock the hammer back and then pull the trigger. It's easier to understand looking at this video again. I want to thank 3D Gunner. This is how a revolver works, and it might clarify where the firing pin also strikes the primer at the base of the bullet casing. Now, with all this new information, the question remains, was the shooting on Baldwin's part an accident? I think absolutely it was an accident. He didn't intend to kill her. Now, should people be held responsible for this accident? Without question. I mean, there is no place for live ammunition on a movie set. The armorer made this statement, which frankly, in my opinion, goes without stating. She said, quote, ultimately, this set would have never been compromised if live ammo were not introduced, close quote. Again, an understatement. So the real question is, why was there a lack of concern for safety protocol? Why was there live ammunition on the set? Why did 4 people handle the weapon without apparently clearing it and making sure it was empty? Why did Helena Hutchins die? And why did Joel Sousa suffer a gunshot to the shoulder? I mean, think this through. Was this an accident or some form of homicide? And there are multiple forms. I'm going to watch for your comments again down below, but this case is far from being over. Now, let's jump to Tennessee as we prepare for Dr. Phil's episode on summer wells. I can't keep from mentioning the proactive efforts that Don and Candace are making with their new YouTube channel and, of course, their website. You can read their blogs. You can provide tips and leads on their website. Now, I'd prefer that you send those directly to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations or to Hawkins County Sheriffs. Now, they've introduced a new segment that is giving us the chance to ask questions. I mean, I think it's pretty odd that they're giving us a place to ask questions, but they don't allow the rest of us to see those questions that are asked or the responses. You can check out their webpage by visiting findsummerwells.com. Don posted a video of him walking down the dog trail from his house to the road below. You can hear on this YouTube channel of theirs the fallen leaves underneath his feet, and you can envision the trail that he promotes as the pathway which Summer was carried down. I find it really interesting as I watch that there are dogs barking in the background. It's probably a constant noise and a good reminder to all of us that the environment around that house and how easy it would be to ignore the dogs in the daytime. Now, it could be a different story at night, but in the daytime, it sounds like dogs are barking all the time. Regardless, the hunt for Summer continues. The investigators continue to keep things close to the vest, but the local search and rescue unit released information that the reward fund has now grown to $58,000. Folks, if you know something, say something. That maroon Toyota pickup with the full bed ladder rack and the white bucket still has not been located. Now, while Don may theorize that it's painted now, that just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think a person, unless they're a suspect, would consider painting, and that's a big deal. Someone would have picked up on that. Police have never identified the truck as a suspect vehicle, merely something that they're looking for in hopes that the driver or the owner may have seen something. So if you know something, call 1-800-TBI-FIND. And believe it or not, Aidan Fucci appeared in person in court this week to find out when he'd be facing a jury in the murder of Tristan Bailey. She's the 13-year-old student athlete and former classmate of Fucci's that he's accused of stabbing to death more than 100 times. Now, many of you have been asking what's happening in this case since his apparent poor acting performance on September 1st. That's when he complained out loud in the hearing that demons were going to take his soul. Well, he showed up in court with his head shaved, but he appeared much more coherent. And you know what I found interesting is that his defense team didn't ask to have the team mentally evaluated. Instead of asking for a mental health evaluation on Fucci, his defense team instead asked for a conservative trial date in October of 2022. I mean, that's a year away. The judge appeared to comply and ordered the defendant and his counsel to appear in court in early February to set a date for the jury trial. Now, remember, because of his age, the heaviest sentence he can receive would be life without parole. Fucci's mother, Crystal Smith, was also expected to appear in court for the tampering with evidence charge she faces for scrubbing his jeans in the bathroom sink of her home, apparently in an attempt to hide evidence. She didn't show, but both Fucci and his mother instead were set for this pretrial hearing on February 2nd. I guess they'll be enjoying the holidays while Tristan Bailey's family tries to cope with their first Christmas without their daughter. So what do you think of Fucci's appearance in court this week? Is he mentally ill? Did he ever really hear those demons, or was it all a really bad acting job gone wrong? Hey, thanks for listening and supporting Profiling Evil. And if you like this video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and ring the bell so that you get all of our videos like this one. And we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.